This is the TEFL Professor whiteboard video about verb tenses. It's not completely comprehensive as it says here. However, we do go over a lot of tenses. With each verb tense, each of the major tenses, we give you an affirmative sentence, a negative sentence, a question, and an affirmative passive sentence to give you kind of all the information you need to form all four of these types of questions. You'll also see on each of the pages, when we talk about a verb tense, the different verb forms, whether it's verb 0, which is an infinitive, meaning no conjugation, verb 1, verb 2, verb 3, and a few of the verb tenses in the continuous tense use the verb ing or the gerund. If you have any further questions about when exactly to use these verb tenses and more particular rules, for all further reference and guidance, go to our website, TEFLprofessor.com. We've got a lot of good information and stuff on verbs there. So these are all the main tenses that you see in English. Of course, we've got past, present, and future for each of the categories of simple, perfect, continuous, and perfect continuous. I'm going to start out talking about, obviously, the simple tenses, simple present, past, and future. First on the list is simple present. Simple present is formed by using verb 1. Verb 1, as it indicates down here, for I, you, we, and they, it's basically the same as the infinitive, which is cook. For he, she, or it, or Elena in this instance, we add an S. So we have Elena cooks dinner every day. Now, present simple usually talks about a habit or a routine and to discuss frequency. So we typically have something here at the end of the sentence to indicate how often that you do something. Okay? And the negative we use doesn't. Elena doesn't cook dinner every day. Now, remember, if the subject is I, you, we, or they, then the doesn't will change to don't. Just like in the question, the does will change to do. So it will be, do I cook dinner every day? And then the passive, dinner is cooked every day by Elena. Of course, in the passive tense, we flip-flop the subject and the object in the sentence to make the object more important. Here, if you look, I've got the O written down in the formula and the S. Of course, this is actually the subject and this is actually the object, but just to give you a little bit of a clearer understanding of how to make the actual formulation of the sentence. Also, when we are dealing with passives, we don't have to include the by. Usually, we actually can leave it out, because in passive, we do it in order to make the object more important. So you don't have to include the by, Elena. Next, we are on to past simple. Past simple is just using verb 2, as it states here. Verb 2 is made with ed with most regular verbs. With irregular verbs, you'll have to look at the various conjugations. So we have Elena cooked dinner yesterday. Usually past simple, we talk about a completed action. So almost always we want some form of finished time at the end of the sentence to indicate when the past simple action took place. So Elena didn't cook dinner yesterday. Now, also the didn't is going to stay the same. There is no change from I, we, and them to he, she, or it. So it's always did and didn't. Did Elena cook dinner yesterday? Dinner was cooked yesterday by Elena. Just as I said with the present simple, we can leave this off if you so choose. It's not important. Last, for the simple tenses, we have future simple. Future simple is typically done using will. As we see down here, there are many ways to talk about the future. Will is typically used for predictions, promises, sudden decisions, and formal situations. There's other ways, including present continuous, present simple, and going to talk about the future. But for purposes of this video, the future tense will be the form that we use by using will. We have Elena will cook dinner tomorrow. Of course, we use the verb 0 or the infinitive, so subject will, verb 0, and object. Elena won't cook dinner tomorrow. Will Elena cook dinner tomorrow? And dinner will be cooked tomorrow by Elena. As always, you can leave that off if you so choose. Next, we have the perfect tenses, and starting with present perfect. Present perfect is used to talk about unfinished time or recent past. This one is always a little bit tricky for students, and I do recommend you go to our website and look at some of the other materials about the differences between present perfect and past simple, especially the differences in American English and British English. There's British English, they typically use a lot more present perfect, whereas in American English, they use a lot more past simple. There are some words that you can look out for: ever, never, yet, already, just, recently, since, and for. If you see those, then you're probably going to want to be using present perfect. We also use it for past situation with a connection to the present. Again, look at our website for some more documents if you need some further explanation on those. We have Elena has cooked dinner today. Of course, for he, she, or it is have. For I, or you, or they, it is have. So that's going to change with each sentence, either has or have. Same thing with hasn't, haven't, and then in the question form as well. Elena hasn't cooked dinner today. Has Elena cooked dinner today? Dinner has been cooked by Elena today. Now, the most common use of present perfect is the unfinished time. That's why you see here plus an unfinished time. That's the most likely scenario for using present perfect. So you can always add in a unfinished time there, and you'll be sure that you're using it correctly. Next, we go on to the past perfect. So the past perfect is basically the same rules as present perfect, but the point of reference is not now, it's in the past. For example, I have been to London. That's the point of reference is speaking of now. But if we say when I was 10, I had never been to London. The point of reference is not now, it's when I was 10 years old. So the same rules apply, the same situations with when you're going to use past perfect. The only difference is that point of reference, the recency or whatever, is actually in the past. We're going to use had plus the verb 3. Had is not going to change because the past of have and has is both had. And so we just use Elena had cooked dinner by 6 p.m. yesterday. We usually want to include the time reference for the past. The easiest way is just by saying by or at and a past time. You can obviously change this. When I was 10 is a good example. Elena hadn't cooked dinner by 6 p.m. yesterday. Had Elena cooked dinner by 6 p.m. yesterday? Dinner had been cooked by Elena by 6 p.m. yesterday. And again, as always, we can take out by Elena if you so choose. The last one that we have here is future perfect. Future perfect is the same as present perfect and as past perfect, but the point of reference is not now, but in the future. I have never been to London, as I said. By the end of next year, I will have been to London. Yeah, the end of next year. This is the point of reference that we're looking about. Yeah. Elena will have cooked dinner by 6 p.m. tomorrow. Again, we want to include this time reference, the future time, and we're going to use will have plus verb 3. Elena won't have cooked dinner by 6 p.m. tomorrow. So the won't and the will, they're not going to change. It's going to be the same. And have is going to be the same as well. There is no has in this construction. Will Elena have cooked dinner by 6 p.m. tomorrow? And dinner will have been cooked by 6 p.m. tomorrow by Elena. Again, as always, you can take out the by Elena if you don't want to include it. Next, we're going to look at the continuous tenses. One thing that's important when we're talking about the continuous tenses, and we'll start by talking about the present continuous, is that you're not going to want to use the continuous tense with any of these verbs. They're what we call state verbs, and you're talking about hate, like, love, prefer, want, wish, these kinds of things. We don't typically use them in the continuous form. We wouldn't say, I am seeing, or I am disagreeing, or I am knowing. Usually we use those in the present simple form, not the present continuous form. So take a note of these verbs. This is not an all-inclusive list, but it's just to give you a rough idea. If you want an all-inclusive list, we have one of them on our website. Looking at present continuous now, it's talking about things that are currently happening, current situations, sometimes temporary, and oftentimes like trends. Usually these are long actions. You can't have a very short action spoken about in the present continuous. Not he is dropping his pen. That's something that happens almost instantaneously, so we wouldn't use it in the present continuous. It can also be used to talk about the future. As you see here, Elena is cooking dinner on Friday. If we add a future point of reference there, then the present continuous is used for the future. For the normal present continuous, there is no time reference, which is just Elena is cooking dinner. We use to be, either is or are, plus the ing, the gerund form of the verb. So subject, to be, the ing form, plus the object. Elena isn't cooking dinner. Is Elena cooking dinner? Dinner is being cooked by Elena. And again, of course, we can take that off if necessary. Next, we'll look at the past continuous. The past continuous talks about a long action completed in the past. Yeah, usually we can also use it to talk about what someone was doing at a specific point in the past, a very specific time, usually. And last, we can talk about a repeated activity in the past. So we have Elena was cooking dinner at 6 p.m. yesterday. Of course, we want that specific time, as we mentioned down here, the specific point in the past. We use this with was or were. Remember, it's going to change. So if the subject is plural, we're going to use were. And if it's singular, we're going to use was. And we're going to use the gerund form, so it's the verb plus the ing, and of course the past time reference. Elena was cooking dinner at 6 p.m. yesterday. Elena wasn't cooking dinner at 6 p.m. yesterday. Was Elena cooking dinner at 6 p.m. yesterday? Also, we can use this time reference here. At is the easiest one, or easiest way to actually reference this time, but we can also use a past simple sentence to show that one event interrupts another. Elena was cooking dinner when her husband arrived home. So her husband arrived home. We use when and then a past simple sentence. Pretty easy construction to follow as well. Lastly, we have future continuous. With future continuous, we're talking about a long action that will be happening in the future. Again, it's a lot of the same rules as past continuous, talking about what someone will be doing at a specific point in the future, or perhaps a repeated activity in the future. We use will plus to be or will be cooking dinner. Elena will be cooking dinner tomorrow at 6 p.m. So we have the subject, will be, plus the ing, the gerund form, plus the object. And again, the future time reference is usually included so that we have a reference as to when this is actually going to be taking place. Elena won't be cooking dinner tomorrow at 6 p.m. Will Elena be cooking dinner tomorrow at 6 p.m.? Dinner will be being cooked tomorrow at 6 p.m. by Elena. Now, the passive form here, this will be being, it's a little uncommon. It's not exactly normal, but it is proper English, and it is said from time to time. So even if it sounds a little weird coming off at the tongue, know that you're still doing all right. Of course, we can take off the by Elena if need be. Lastly, we're going to talk about the most confusing tense, which is perfect continuous. We'll start off by talking about present perfect. So present perfect continuous, yeah, it's talking about how long something has been happening. We're usually very concerned with either the start or the duration of something. We can also talk about an event that is affecting the present. Yeah, Elena has been cooking a lot, so she's really tired. So we form the present perfect continuous with the has or have plus been plus the ing, the gerund form of the verb. Elena has been cooking dinner. Now usually we want either for a period or since a past time. So Elena has been cooking dinner for 30 minutes. Or Elena has been cooking dinner since 30 minutes ago. Both of those are okay. Elena hasn't been cooking dinner for 30 minutes. Has Elena been cooking dinner for 30 minutes? Now, remember, there is the has and the have, so if you're talking about I or you or they, we're going to be using have, not has, and haven't, not hasn't. Lastly, dinner has been being cooked for 30 minutes by Elena, and of course, we can cross that out. Next is past perfect continuous. Past perfect continuous, we talk about a situation that stopped or that we stopped at some point that we are mentioning in the sentence. Elena had been cooking dinner for 30 minutes at 6 p.m. yesterday. So we use the subject, the had been, the gerund, the object. Now we need the for or the period of time for 30 minutes. Yeah, usually we don't use since here. It's almost always for some stretch of time. You could actually say something like this, for a long time, and for plus a period. And then we also want the past time reference. So Elena had been cooking dinner for 30 minutes at 6 p.m. yesterday. So we need, because of the perfect continuous, we need the duration, but we also, it's in the past, so we need the time reference. Elena hadn't been cooking dinner for 30 minutes at 6 p.m. yesterday. Had Elena been cooking dinner for 30 minutes at 6 p.m. yesterday? Dinner had been being cooked for 30 minutes by Elena at 6 p.m. yesterday. This is a really strange construction, and most people will tell you it's actually wrong. I just wanted to show you guys how actually it would be constructed if you wanted to use the passive in this particular form. Of course, it's very rare if ever used, but that's how you would go about forming it. Also, just a note, remember for is length of time and since is a point of time. Lastly, last one, we have future perfect continuous. Future perfect continuous it's very similar to the past perfect continuous. We talk about a situation that will stop or be measured from that we are talking about. We need a reference to the future when the action will stop or time will be measured. We also need the measure of time to show how long. Elena will have been cooking dinner for 30 minutes by 6 p.m. tomorrow. So we take the subject, will have been, the gerund, the object, the for with the period of time, by or at, and the future time. Okay? So Elena will have been cooking dinner for 30 minutes by 6 p.m. tomorrow, or at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Same thing with the negative. Elena won't have been cooking dinner for 30 minutes by 6 p.m. tomorrow. Will Elena have been cooking dinner for 30 minutes by 6 p.m. tomorrow? And dinner will have been being cooked for 30 minutes by 6 p.m. tomorrow by Elena. Likewise with past perfect continuous, this is a very odd passive to have formed, but I just wanted to show you exactly how you might form it if you wanted to do so. So that's the verb tenses, all of the 12 major types of verb tenses. As I said, it's not all-inclusive, but it does at least give you a brief rundown as to how to form all 12 of them and when we usually use them and what they're used to talk about. If you have any questions, as I said, then please visit our website, www.teflprofessor.com. Hope this video was helpful, and keep learning English.